almost a daily occurrence, good Rotarians, that we hear about issues between cities and their police departments, or police departments and the mounting tensions they are having with their citizens. What about our own city? What are the best practices which are being employed here in Harrisburg? To learn about just that, Chief Carter accepted the invitation to come and be here with us to tell us about that. After graduating from the police academy in Hershey, Chief Carter's first assignment was with the walking platoon in the hill section of our city. He moved quickly to accept even more responsibility and was progressively assigned to the most demanding situations, from the housing authority to crime investigation. He is credited with solving a key number of homicides. He was moved up to the very important position of commanding officer by Mayor Thompson, and then was sworn in to be captain in January of 2014 by Mayor Pappenfuss. He is highly respected for his contemporary and creative approaches to the huge, huge challenge of urban policing. You are a busy man, Chief, and we are glad that you took some time to come here and be with us today. And so, fellow Rotarians, let us join and welcome Chief Carter to our podium today. He's somebody you can look up to, actually.
Thank you for having me here. When Joyce Davis asked me to speak here, I wasn't sure because I said, they're not cops. And I feel comfortable talking around other officers, police chiefs, and what have you. But to be honest with you, it is a great honor. I am proud to be here. The victim witness room that the Rotary Club fixed up for us, it is fantastic. It still looks great. My heart goes out to you. I'm very humble for that dear donation, and once again, thank you. The food is also good here too, but I'm not a big lunch eater. You know, I was at home yesterday and I was sent a video depicting an incident down in Texas where these kids of color were invited into a white neighborhood to a pool party. The neighbors got there. The neighbors saw the kids there and they didn't recognize them, so naturally they call officers and the officers show up, and instead of the officers going to the adults who were having a party for the kids, they right away they went to the teenagers there, and it was a melee. It was an unfortunate situation. And it seems like that's the tune of what's going on throughout our country right now, is that, you know, our youth or adults are having confrontation with officers. You know, Sir Robert Peel, back in England, back in the 1800s, he believed that community policing, even back then, was the way to go. That the police are the public and the public are the police. There is no separation, there is no them and us. That everybody is one, and that police officers it is the only occupation that you are paid to protect and to serve. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about from warriors back to guardians. If you can recall the Columbine incident, the bombing of the World Trade Center, you know, forcing situations that sort of transform the way that police do business, the way that we talk to the public, the way that we brought about a separation of them and us. I can understand why it was really popular to hire the military veterans, the military leaders, and to make them police chiefs here in this great nation. I understand that. But once that happened, they militarized all of the police agencies. They were giving veteran preference points to police officers. I respect military veterans. If there's any out here, God bless you, and I love you. But what that did is that there's a separation. The only likeness to a police officer and a soldier is that uniforms, we both wear one, we both carry weapons. But our mission is totally different. A military person is a warrior. He is trained to be a warrior. A police officer, in the good old days, were trained to be guardians. But that was taken away from us. And so nowadays you have to be a guardian first and a warrior second. Let's talk about the warriors. Every police department needs one. We all need warriors, but it shouldn't be the basis of the operation. Military personnel are taught, no, it is my way, and that's the only way. Guardians are taught to use kindness, love, and leadership. Guardians are taught to be part of the neighborhood that they police. It's an unfortunate situation with Mike Brown. It's an unfortunate situation that happened in Baltimore. We are not perfect people. Sometimes we like to think that we are perfect people, but we are not perfect people, and we do mess up. I'm not going to get into whether the incident with Mike Brown was right or wrong and what should have happened. But what shouldn't have happened is that the city should have not been under siege like that. In Baltimore, it shouldn't have happened like that, because you have a good PIO, you have a good person out there that can speak for the police agency. Now, I know that we just had an incident with a veteran. It's been eating up the media and what have you. I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened, but I can tell you this here, I wanted to apologize right away. I wanted to say, sir, thank you for your service. I'm sorry that the officer, he misunderstood your service, and how can we make this better? But that did not happen. If that would happen throughout the country with more police agencies, we wouldn't have the problems with communicating with the public than we do right now. Public trust is a cornerstone of public safety. In order for me to do my job, you have to trust me. You have to trust the police agency, you have to trust the mayor that we have your best interests at hand. Plato wrote, in a republic that honors the core of democracy, the greatest amount of power is given to those called guardians. Only those with the most impeccable character are chosen to bear the responsibility of protecting the democracy. That's what we do, protect. And it all starts with our youth. As I spoke out many times, that there's a direct prison, Harrisburg High School to prison pipeline. And that shouldn't be. Within 2 years after a kid graduates from Harrisburg High School, they don't go to college, a lot of them don't. They don't join the military, they don't join a trade school, but they do have a connection with the criminal justice system. How do we solve that? How do we change that? We change it by employing better teachers. We change it by getting the families involved. Families are the keystone to everything when it comes to the criminal justice system. You gotta have a strong background, you gotta have parents that care for you, parents that love you. As I ride through the city, I see dilapidated houses, I see all kind of drug wrappers on the street. It's sad. You go to Allison Hill, which is a big heroin section in the city. We're doing everything that we can to clean up that situation there. But when you look at these young kids walking around here, they had nothing to do with that. They were not born when the houses first started running down. They were not born when the heroin and the crack cocaine was hitting these cities. It is not their problem, but it is our problem to protect them and to keep them from that situation. That's what I do. Community policing is what I do. I want to be entrenched in the neighborhoods, communities, to know what you need. I want to share your pain with you. I want to offer you solutions and ways to overcome. That's what policing have to get back to. That's the guardians that I'm talking about. You have to be able to walk up to any situation and understand something, because what comes out of your mouth is what matters. The words, for instance, like the veteran. What the officer said to that young man hurt him. So police have to wear many different faces. We have to be social workers, we have to be marriage counselors, but most of all, we have to be caring people. I was asked when I came in here about a situation downtown with Ciota's Club. I had 2 people shot downtown Saturday morning because of a club letting out. I cannot tolerate that. I will not stand for that, because I want to bring business back into Harrisburg. I want everybody in this room to be able to go downtown and enjoy themselves. I want you to have faith in the police and the mayor and the city that you can bring your families here and have fun and spend money naturally and go home. Everything works off of revenue. And yes, we're trying to bring Harrisburg back. We have 600 new houses being built in the Allison Hill section. The worst thing that happened to this country, to me, is when they start building projects and allowed HUD housing. Because now you're training people to look for something for free, getting a handout. And believe me, I understand, you know, that everybody comes from different walks of life and everybody's situations like different. But you have generations of people growing up down there. I believe that the way to go is home ownership. I believe the way to go is to stop the rooming houses, apartments, and let's have more home ownership in Harrisburg to bring back the revenue here and bring back the education system. Harrisburg is a beautiful city. We are a great city. But the only way that we can grow is that we have public trust, that the public trusts us. And that's my goal, to have the public trust us. Mr. Peel said, the police seek and preserve public favor, not by catering to public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolute impartial service to the law, in complete independence of policy and without regard to the justice or the injustice of the substance of individual laws, by ready offering of individual service and friendship to all members of society without regard to their race or social standing, by ready exercise of courtesy and friendly good humor, and by ready offering of individual sacrifice in protecting and preserving life. The most important part of this here to me is that friendship to all members of society without regard to their race or social standing. Race or social standing. We should all be looked at the same under the law and treated the same under the law. You know, criminal justice, any lawyers here? Okay, I can say it then.
You have a federal judge sitting right over there.
Your Honor, how you doing? The criminal justice system was founded on money. And the criminal justice system have to have a way to refund and to recuperate every year and to keep building. My speech is that I want to break the criminal justice system. Reentry, there's a lot of money put in there when people get out of prison. My thing is, I don't want anybody to have any contact with the criminal justice system, so they won't have to worry about that. There is too much money wasted on reentry. We should be using that money on education, educating the kids when they're young, getting to them at a very young age, to let them know, you know, that it is no glory, no glamour going to jail. And because you're in a certain situation doesn't mean that you're there for life. Education changes everything. It teaches you to reason and to understand and how to prepare to get to where you want to go. It's not the beginning that matters, it's how you end. That's my speech to all of our youth. So please, I want to close down the criminal justice system. Now, I know that we cannot control certain segments of the population, but the prisons do not have to be overcrowded the way that they are. Kids have to know that they're responsible for their actions, and the only way to do that there is for us to get into the schools to teach the SRO programs to make the kids understand that there are consequences for your actions. You know, something happened recently where we had a police officer going to a robbery call. And the perpetrators of the robberies, they were shooting at the officers. Now, the officers were justified in returning fire, but they didn't. They showed restraint, professionalism, and also what they showed is a way that the upper level management, myself, my captains, have been teaching the officers. You are justified for firing your gun. You know, by law, you have the right, the greatest right that we have is to take somebody else's life. But sometimes, is that necessary? You have to justify your actions because they have to be necessary. The officers showed restraint, followed the car, and we were able to bring the perpetrator to justice. Leadership comes from the top. That warrior mentality that has been passed down for the past couple of decades right now, we're trying to change to go back to guardianship. We're trying to change the culture here. We're trying to do what Plato said. We're trying to do what Sir Robert Peel says, you know, that the police are the public, and the public and the police are the same. I'm not going to keep talking because I want to get some questions from you. This is a different crowd for me because I don't see any uniforms or any any police. Are you an officer, sir? No. Oh. So anyway, you know, I thank you, you know, for your time. I thank you for letting me speak. But Harrisburg is a beautiful city. Harrisburg is coming back. We need each other. The police need the public, and the public needs us. So I thank you, and I'll take any questions.
There are some questions.
How do you feel about cameras on policemen or on police cars?
I love the idea of having cameras on police officers. I have no problem with that because I feel that my officers are trained well enough that they're not going to be saying or doing anything that you cannot video and you cannot hear what they're saying. So I have cameras in my cars right now. We record all stops, and I have no problems with that. The biggest problem with cameras and recording is finding the data space to store that stuff. So if there's any people out here into computers and they understand data and storage, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of sometimes, talking about the other videos that are surfacing online about police brutality, and thankfully mostly in other parts of the country, as someone who grew up having the police over for dinner, you know, growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it seemed like when I'm looking at some of these videos, I think to myself, well, some people are being argumentative with the police, some people are cussing at the police, some people are resisting arrest, and then you know, you do more research and you realize there's an ingrained, deep mistrust that some people have, and when you're talking to enough people, you wonder, well, which came first? Was it the distrust of police officers, or was it police using power, or, you know, it's kind of like chicken or the egg. So how do you suggest that we get everyone to trust the police in an environment where there's that inherent mistrust for police officers?
That's a good question, ma'am. You know, due to the culture that is going on right now, due to the different views of police officers, you know, we have to work real hard. We have to come up with something to bring back the public trust. Because a person cusses at an officer, a police officer, does not give the officer the right to curse back at them. Officers should only use enough force to stop the action. No more, no less. We are not there to hurt you. We are not there to harm you. If we have to arrest you for whatever reason, it should be done with respect and with dignity, and let go. What's going on right now is that, you know, you have all these here police agencies in the Midwest and out west and down south, you know, they joined the 1033 program where you can get military weapons, tanks and ammunition, guns and different things like that. You know, their leadership, you know, they have the military mindset that says, so goes the station, so goes the street. And leadership comes from the top, and the way your leaders are will be the way that your officers are. I have respect for everybody. I like people, period. I will hold conversation with anybody and I will help anybody. Because I am a police officer, I have a badge and a gun, and authority does not make me any better than anybody else. It makes me part of everybody else, and it makes me a guardian to do the right thing. That's what I teach the officers that I have. Yes, sir.
Chief, I want to say on behalf of myself, and I think probably most of the people in the audience, thank you for what you do every day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have a question, I have a kudo. On Sunday mornings, I cycle into downtown, and quite frankly, stop signs are a pain in the rear when you're cycling on a Sunday morning and there are hardly any cars on the road. And one Sunday morning, one of your fine officers, a young lady, motioned me to pull over, which I did. And her first words to me were, "Sir, I am here to protect you. And you went through a stop sign, and that was dangerous." She didn't give me a ticket, anything. She basically told me she was there to protect me, and it was her responsibility to tell me not to go through stop signs like that. I will say every Sunday morning now, I look to make sure there are no police cars. But that was a pure example of community policing, and I appreciated it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Chief, a lot of my friends are police officers, and unlike veterans, you don't get the recognition that you should. You're facing numerous headwinds, whether it's racial issues or underfunding, etc. But I think the biggest issue that you face is the media not projecting the positive or soft touches. There was a husband who got arrested for stealing from a grocery store, and when the police officer showed up and found out it was because he couldn't feed his baby and he was stealing formula, you don't see that hit the news. So just wanted to again say thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Just let me say, you know, that like the police, the media has a job to do, and readers don't want to read or hear about good things. It seems like, you know, that what sells papers are bad things. People like to read about other people's misery. You know, I hold nothing against the media. I am very open with the media, and I take the good with the bad. When my officers do something wrong, I stand up and I take my medicine. And that's how it should be. So I understand the media, and they're going to do what they want to do, you know, so we'll just handle it. Yes, ma'am.
Are body cameras on the list in the next year, year and a half? How many would you need and what would it cost?
Oh.
Just spent $500 on Facebook.
Here you go.
I'm not sure of the actual pricing of body cameras, but D.A. Marsico and the local police chiefs, Chief Martin, Umberger, Bay down in Middletown, the student police chief, we're all getting together. We're all applying for grants to see how, you know, we can purchase body cams. The thing is that, you know, body cams are great. Body cams are good, but it's officer presence. It's how the officer respects you and how the officer treats you. I'm big on respect and treating people fair, you know, and that's how I want my police agency to be out there patrolling these streets. I want them to treat people with dignity and respect, and what comes out of their mouth, if it's not right, I want you to call me, so I can straighten it out. Yes. Yes.
I've been reading that in some parts of the country, police departments have been taking the leadership in trying to combat the recidivism of drug abusers' crime by administering programs with Vivitrol, which is a opiate and alcohol blocker that's administered once a month. And it's been showing great promise, very expensive, but that's been actually a solution that's been advocated and started by some police departments, which was very surprising. I don't know if you had any comments, if there's any talk or looking at anything like that. I mean, the cost is the issue. I'm not sure how these police departments are coming up with the money for this, but I guess it certainly helps keep the crime down and help these, drug addicts control their problems.
Today I was talking to Joyce Davis. Last month I was contacted by the company that wanted to do the Narcan, is that correct, Jen? I'm sorry, but this is my secretary, Jennifer Cameron. She's the one that keeps my schedule straight, and I keep telling her, do not schedule me a meeting on Friday. Who meets on Friday? But she's always doing that. Anyway, we're looking into partnering up with the county. Officers need training. It's very costly. They have like different clinics around here. For those of you that do not know, heroin is tearing our county up. Not only this county, but the whole country. There are a lot of people overdosing every day. Some are saved, some are lost. It's an epidemic that we have to do something about. As a guardian, you have to protect those that will not protect themselves. So I'm all for the program. I'm all for saving lives. I know that's going to be a cost to the public, but we have to do what we have to do. Yes, sir.
I've been selecting juries in Central Pennsylvania and out of the state for 50 years ago. And one thing I do when I'm selecting a jury doing voir dire, I try to pose questions to the potential jurors to find out if there's any racial prejudice. And over these many 50-some years, I've had one person stand up and say that they had racial prejudice. No, in other words, all those people, none of them are prejudiced. So since our metropolitan area problems appear to me to stem from racial bigotry or racial animus, what, if anything, do you do, or the Harrisburg Police Department does or should do, other municipalities should do to try to detect this racial prejudice in potential police officers so that we don't have to have them shoot somebody because they are prejudiced before we do something, if anything?
That's a good question. In this day and time, it's really hard to believe, that we have prejudices, but we do because we're all human beings and we're not perfect. There is no known test that I can think of that I can give people who wants to be officers. It's a selection process, and right now, many of you have heard I'm asking for officers of color. But because I ask for officers of color doesn't mean that they don't have some built-up prejudices. From what I've seen so far, that same race people have more prejudices against each other than the opposite races. What I do is, I try to be fair, and I will not discriminate against anybody of color. There is no way that you can determine who's prejudiced and who isn't prejudiced. The only thing I can say is that we all bleed, we all have the same symptoms, and one day we're going to all meet the same maker. So I don't know how I'm going to tell who's prejudiced and who isn't prejudiced, sir. And I find that because somebody is from Georgia doesn't mean that they have any more prejudice from somebody from New York or even Boston. It's just no way of telling. There is no hard test of figuring that out. I'm proud to say I work for a great mayor and that we're turning the corner in this city and that you're going to see great things happen, and you're all part of it. And thank you for having me here, and I enjoyed being here, and I'll come back anytime. Thank you.
Aren't you proud to have him as our chief?